there was a comment in the last one of these I did where someone said it's, what was it, S-tier second monitor content is like really good background, which I'm absolutely fine with. If you've not seen one of these before, it's the third one I've done, this one here today. Basically, one take, no cuts, no B-roll, just a chat. And if you're down for it, let's talk about foldables, because I've reviewed the Fold 7, I've reviewed the Flip 7, and actually you can't see it off camera here, but I've got basically every single one. I've got Pixel Fold, I've got the Magic V5, I've got a very early Huawei one as well. Also, this is the Oppo N5 on my glass table, which is making a horrible sound as I put them back down. Also, flip phones. This actually is the original Galaxy Flip, the 4G one. I did get some feedback in my video saying, "Oh, I've got all the flips here." They're like, "No, you don't. You don't have the Flip 5G," because they basically launched a second version of this within a few months where it had 5G. So there are 7 flips, which makes sense, even though there's 7 generations, but they skipped the second one. Anyway, doesn't matter. Can we talk about them? Who's buying them? Are they any good? Should we wait for an iPhone foldable? Should we wait for a Galaxy Z Fold Ultra? Or what are they going to call it? Fold G? Something like that? You know, a Trifold. We've seen that one. Is it the XS from Huawei? I'd be interested in that. And I think all rumors, all signs point to we are going to get one later in the year. We'd hoped we'd see maybe as like a one more thing at the end of the announcement, the end of the Unpacked event for this guy and this guy, but no, alas not. Anyway, $2,000 for a Fold 7, £1,800. I was thinking the other day, 7 generations of Fold, why have they not got cheaper? Why, you know, the biggest issue we have, and there are other issues, but like the biggest issue people have with foldables like this is they're so bleeding expensive. Who's got 1,800 quid to buy a phone? Well, I mean, they must sell them because they keep making them. But, you know, they've not got any cheaper. But then I thought about that, what tech does get cheaper? TVs stay the same. Oh no, TVs have got cheaper on the low end, but you know, high-end TVs, flagship tech is always very, very expensive. And you'd have thought over time as they've built the tooling for the manufacturing, you know, they know how it's made, everything's easier, they could make it cheaper? Apparently not. They either, you know, have higher profit margins, they put more money into R&D. Either way, very, very expensive. I understand more. Actually, this was kind of interesting. I made a bet with my brother. I put £10 on it. We went to the hands-on event nearly a month ago now, where Samsung here in the UK showed us the Flip and the Fold, and we got like a couple of hours with it before they launched it a week later. And I said to my brother, who came with me, because he obviously works on the channel as well, I said, I'll give you 10 quid if I bet the Flip video, because we put them both live at the same time at embargo, the Flip video will get more views than the Fold video, because more people buy the Flips because they're so much more affordable. This is £1,049. This is like $1,799, $2,000, $1,100. This is like, the Flips are basically the same price as a regular phone. It's like not kind of between the S25 Plus, the S25 Ultra, but it's very much like, would you like an S25 Plus that doesn't fold, or, you know, but perhaps with a, you know, third camera, better battery, some other things, or would you like a Flip? It's not like crazy more expensive, but the Folds are significantly more expensive. Who has £2,000 to drop on this? I don't know. Same people who buy higher MacBook Pros and things probably, or executives who put it on their business, whatever it is. But I would have lost that bet. I did lose that bet because I think 2 or 3 times more people watch my Fold video than my Flip video. And actually that's also transfer. That's the same thing I've seen on my reviews with these two. So really, really fascinating. I suppose it's just because the Flip's a little bit less interesting this year. When you boil it down, if I can get my words out, it's just basically a bigger cover screen, isn't it? The flex window, as they call it. It's very nice, very futuristic, very borrowed from the Motorola Razr 60 Ultra. But then it's the natural progression of these phones. There's not much else they can do. They've made it thinner and lighter, new chip, the Exynos, which is, you know, not actually much of an upgrade at all over last year. You know, a few little minor improvements here and there. It is thinner, actually, which I do appreciate. It's about 1.5 mil thinner, I think it is, in your pocket. And obviously with a Flip, it's this chunkiness that's the issue when you put it in your pocket. But ostensibly, the main upgrade is the flex window, the cover screen. And versus the original Flip, Here's one I made earlier with 1% battery. Let's try and get this shot before it dies. This is the original flex window, which I'm not sure if it will come up. Yeah, it is. It's basically the same size as the now brief widget on the new one. It's the same size as that little guy in the corner, which is nuts. That is a heck of an upgrade over 5 years. But is it enough to buy one? Does it make you think, oh, I'm going to rush out and buy one? I forget where I was going with that there. I guess the point is we're seeing all these iterations of flips and folds. They're thinner, they're lighter, they're faster, the cameras are getting better, the crease is getting more subtle. But the pricing isn't changing, they're not getting cheaper, and the use cases aren't changing. You know, yes, the software gets better. You know, One UI I think is the best in class really for foldable flip software from Samsung. But there's nothing that's going to convince you if you're not, you know, if you haven't already been sold on a flip or a fold over the last 5, 6, 7 years. Well, no, 5 years. You know, can I possibly convince you to buy one? Not that I am, but they're just, you know, refinements. So the main things that are coming down the line that may tempt you, that may be a bit of a shift, is the iPhone foldable, which is rumored for next year, maybe 2027. It could also just not happen. But there's pretty strong rumors that they are working on something. But also a trifold, like the Huawei from Samsung, which I would actually be really excited about, although naturally that would come at even higher cost, probably, I don't know, $3,000 or something if they're following the Huawei track. Although remember, of course, while Huawei were the first to introduce a trifold phone, that was also like $3,000 roughly. They didn't sell it outside of China, and also like the creases were really pretty significant, and it wasn't. And also the way it folded was kind of awkward. Some of the I think it's Android Authority released some sketches, some sort of rumored illustrations, whatever you want to call it, of a new Galaxy Fold G, Fold Ultra, whatever they want to call it. Technically, they should just call it the Fold Z, or Z for my American friends, because well, no, it's coming out like a book, isn't it? So, but anyway, it's got 2 folding points. So I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this very well. 2 folding points, 2 hinges, like a Z character, like a Z character has 2 points. Anyway, it just, for me, it would just make sense to call it the Galaxy Z Ultra or something like that. That would be interesting because I love the Fold. I say I love the Fold. This is the closest I've ever been to actually switching full time and using the Fold, because for me, the significantly thinner chassis, the fact that we have basically the same 200 megapixel camera as the S25 Ultra, which is not the best camera on the market. I will say that now. Like other phones, I think my favorite camera phone right now is it's probably the Oppo Find XA Ultra, closely followed by the Xiaomi, then the Vivo. Anyway, that's a different conversation. I should do one of these. Let's talk about phone cameras and talk about that. But you know, the chip, we got the 8 Elite chip, battery stayed the same, no S Pen, that is disappointing. Although I do think while the S Pen is a definite downside and some people will really be put off on the Fold 7 by the lack of S Pen support, I don't think most people use it. I think it's something people are using almost as just a reason to say negative things about the Fold because, I don't know, they have brand loyalties elsewhere. Anyway, it doesn't matter. The problem with the Fold is I like the idea of watching shows and movies on this, but because we have a square tablet, I'm always going between like, oh, shall I just use the cover screen? Because we have a 21:9 cover screen, which is, excuse me, oh, choking on myself there. This is where one take really is proven. Like, what would I do if I start, oh, I don't know. Anyway, back to this. 21:9 cover screen, so I've completely lost track there. I'm like choking to death while trying to do a 1-take video. I may as well just do these live at this point. 21:9 cover screen, perfect, or much closer to perfect for watching movies, right? The wider aspect ratio, taller aspect ratio, wider aspect, it doesn't matter. Tablet screen, lovely for having a couple of apps side by side, but then you've got these massive black letterboxes when you're watching TV and movies. So I'm always like, what do I want to watch on the main screen, on the front screen? You know, which one's better? I also really, really wish we had the anti-reflective coating on the S25 Ultra. Currently, that's the only phone with Samsung's screen that has that sort of anti-reflective coating, and it makes a big difference. If the tablet screen had that, I'd like that as well. So I've been really impressed by the Fold 7. Still very expensive, battery's basically the same, no change to charging, the drop of the S Pen's disappointing, and there are other phones out there, but particularly if you're in North America, you really don't get access to a lot of these. Like the Magic V5, I don't think will be coming to North America. Well, isn't that many of them? Like the Oppo, although I think that is Chinese only. There are other great foldables out there, but they're mostly for the Asian market, which is a bit frustrating. Fortunately, at least in the Western markets and North America, we do now have a good option. The hardware of the Fold has caught up to Samsung, has caught up to the Asian Chinese rivals, but I think the software on Samsung is still the best in class. Also, they were the first ones to do it. I remember being at, I think it was IFA, the Berlin trade show back in 2019, I think it was, and they showed off the very first Galaxy Fold with a tiny little huge bezel around the tiny little cover screen, and we had the issue where people were pulling off the cover screen film. It looked like a screen protector, but actually it was part of the screen. I think Marquez MKBHD famously kind of broke his doing that or something. But we've come a long way since then, where these are pretty durable. We've got IP48. Some of these guys have IP59. The crease is barely noticeable anymore. The cameras are pretty decent. They've got I feel like these have come. Folds and flips have now got to a point where they are as good as they're going to get in their current form, if you know what I mean. I mean, there are still limitations in price, cameras. You're still going to get a more flagship experience from a flagship phone, like an S25 Ultra, iPhone 16 Pro Max, Xiaomi 15 Ultra or whatever. But in terms of being able to carry a phone around that's like the same weight, same size as a regular phone, but and a very usable cover screen, and then open it up to have a big old square tablet inside, it's very cool. We're there. These are excellent. But I don't know what would make me actually switch to one. Because I think you guys know this, but primarily I use an iPhone just because mainly I use a MacBook Pro from editing and creating my videos. And as soon as I bought my MacBook Pro a few years ago, after going from Dell XPSs for a long, long time, I thought, well, I better get a pair of AirPods, and I bought an iPhone because of AirDrop and that nice ecosystem. So I would be really interested in a iPhone Fold. I think we all would. I think we also know that cameras will be compromised. I think it'll be extremely expensive, and also it'll be their first generation device. And generally what we see is, Apple waits a little bit longer, often quite a bit longer, and then does the thing that is already out there, but in their own way, and generally usually in a very good way, in a very sort of refined way. They wait till it's right. Well, that has usually been the case. I'd say the Apple Vision Pro is kind of maybe doesn't quite follow that track, because I have one, I bought one, I never use it, and it was too heavy, too expensive, too many issues with it, but that's VR and MR generally. Foldables they're a weird one. I gave this to my dad to play with the other week, and he's like, oh, that is quite nice, but I think they're stupid. He thinks most things are stupid these days. Although he's not wrong, but I think an iPhone Fold, and what would that even bring to the table? Obviously iOS, but would that be closer to iPad OS? That'd be really interesting, actually. But the reason why a trifold, for me, is actually more interesting is because you then end up with a 1 screen, 2 screen, 3 screen, rectangle basically, rather than a square, which is much better for watching movies and TV shows. You're going to get a much bigger screen, like using a proper tablet. Because, yes, I know people say this is a tablet screen, but it's still only let me actually just unlock this so it's a bit more interesting than looking at a keypad. You're still looking at an 8-inch screen, an 8-inch square screen with a crease down the middle. It's very nice. It does feel futuristic, but it's like, what can you do on this that you couldn't just do on your normal big screen? Sorry, on your normal phone, assuming you have a reasonably large phone, like a 16 Pro Max or S25 Ultra or something like that. Yes, you could have 2 apps side by side. That is useful. But it's not fundamentally I still think maybe I'm of that generation where some tasks like, I don't know, booking flights or replying to emails that are going to be like more difficult or long-winded are like they're laptop jobs. I don't know if you if you feel like that. It's like some things are a phone job, other things are a laptop or a desktop job where I need my proper screen and like space and things like that. I know younger generations don't really feel that way as much, but for me, the foldable devices don't give me that laptop level or like full-size tablet level experience that a laptop or a full-size tablet gives me. It's just like this second, a bit bigger screen. So I would be really curious about a Trifold from Samsung. I think if anyone's going to do it right and well, it'll be them. Also, really, there's no one else except Huawei. And who knows if and also like the XS, the Trifold from Huawei, is like it's over a year old now. It's been around for a while. But would an iPhone Fold significant? Would that make a difference? Would I spend? What's an iPhone 16 Pro Max? About £1,100 ish. So it'd be at least $2,000, wouldn't it? I'd be curious to see what they do. I'd love to see an Apple take on a foldable or a flip. So let's talk about flip phones. I think flips are more interesting. My buddy Tim, actually, he owned a Flip 5 for a couple of years. I think it was a 5 or a 4, until he went back to iPhone a few months ago. But just because he told me that like the battery life kept getting worse over time. The initial like coolness. Let me just pick it up there. Like the initial, what do you call it? Coolness feature gimmick of having a flip where you can like hang up on people and flick it open and I don't know, have a nice tall screen for your videos. Like eventually it just became a hindrance more than an actual feature. It's not something that he ended up using every day. It's one of those things that looks cool. You've got some nice options with the flex for you. You can use it as a tripod, and you got I think maybe the bigger cover screen window would have made a difference to him as well because it makes it a lot more usable. But except for maybe checking a message, I don't know, looking at navigation or something, it's like what are you doing on this screen? Like actually like not just playing with it in a shop or you've got it for 24 hours and you're like, oh, I can play Genshin Impact on a cover screen. Like. How often are you going to use this in any meaningful way? One thing you can do, which I said in my review, is that you can go to this, if you go to the settings, labs, there's now an option, it has been there for a year or two, but like called multi-star, and that basically lets you put full fat apps on the cover screen. So let me just, if I can just unlock this. Why are you being weird? Come on, there we go, face unlock. So I've got it as my second page here, because normally, by default, you're just swiping through widgets. You've got your calendar, notifications, weather, fine. But with multi-star, I've got Instagram, I've got my phone app, I've got a couple of games, WhatsApp, basically anything you want you can like assign to the cover screen. And with the new One UI 8 on the Flip 7, One UI 8 on the Flip 7, you've got this little button down here which can take you between horizontal, vertical, and full screen. And also don't forget these cameras at the bottom here do basically take up some of the space on the app, so that's not ideal. And it really is very much copy and paste from Motorola Razr Ultra 60, Ultra 60. They got there first, giving us a full screen cover window. But except, like, what are you going to do with that? In everyday life, I can 100% see, having my phone down there, I can see, an email pop up. I've got, I can see my WhatsApps come in. I could have a cool little widget showing a photo. And also I could probably use this a bit more than the main screen, thereby saving a bit of battery. It's a cool feature. It looks good. I love it. I'm all about the futuristic tech, but it's not gonna fundamentally change my life. Like, and I think that's maybe the issue with flips and folds, is people are thinking, oh, it's going to transform the way I use my mobile phone. But for most of us, and everyone's different, everyone's got different use cases, I don't think it necessarily does. And as good as these phones are, particularly the Fold 7 this year, but the Flip 7 as well, I wouldn't spend, these are review samples, I would not spend personally £1,800 of my own money on one of these over a traditional rectangular flagship phone. My priority with phones is camera, battery, usability, and also to some extent, obviously, price as well. So this is still, it's better, but you're still compromising on the camera, you're still compromising on the price. It's not as durable. You still got a crease. It's It's tricky. I like them. They're fun. They're fun products. But I think now we're on the Fold 7, and also like where do we go next? Because they're as thin as they can basically go. I'm looking at the Oppo Find N5 here. Very much the same as the Magic V5 Fold 7. But like unless they lose the USB-C port, which is possible, but I doubt it. They can't really get any thinner. They can maybe get a little bit lighter. As we've seen on the, where has it gone? On the Magic V5, because they've got so thin, the camera bumps have got to get even bigger. And actually one of the issues I've had, minor issue, but with the Fold 7 is that because of this fairly chunky camera bump in the corner here, if you've got it flat on a desk, it wobbles like there's no tomorrow. It really does. But the camera bumps get bigger, but you're still not getting the full, quite the same camera setup as you would on a Magic, what were we on, Magic 7 Pro, Magic 8 Pro? 7 Pro. Anyway, the regular full flat, the regular full fat flagship phone, say that 3 times fast, you're still gonna get a better camera experience. Well, that is quite nice. I'm supposed to get the full global version of this with file software in a few weeks. This is like a pre-release version. It does look very nice. There is something very nice about them. I know I'm just flip-flopping here and waffling, but it's such an interesting sort of device category because they're such beautifully refined, lovely to use devices, but they're also really freaking expensive and they don't do anything fundamentally different than using a regular phone. Going back to a phone job versus a laptop job, I don't know. What else have we got? Trifolds, camera bumps. Oh, also, yeah, would you prefer, what size fold do you prefer? Because the Pixel, this is the Pixel 9 Pro Fold 2. And we've also got the 3 just around the corner as well, which they've announced. The older ones had the more passport, smaller size screen. Then we've got the bigger kind of square screens of the Fold. And we've sort of moved away from the smaller passport screens that we had on like, what was it, the N2, M3 from Oppo, and the original Pixel. This is quite nice. But the problem, like I love the Pixel Fold, I do. I think this was a huge update over the original one. I'm excited to review the 3rd one. But the issue with this is the cameras are rubbish. I mean, I know Pixels have kind of stagnated in the camera department for a while now, which is actually quite frustrating, but they're significantly worse than what you get on a Pixel 9 Pro or 9 Pro XL. And for me to spend this kind of money on an all singing, all dancing, top of the line flagship fold, but get a substantially worse camera is a bit of a deal breaker for me, which is why I've never like fully switched out to a fold except for like a review period or for a few weeks or for a comparison video. It's tricky that until there is no compromise except the price, perhaps, it's tough to losing the ability to speak. It's tough to fully transition to a fold or a flip. But I think if I had to right now, I would use the Fold 7. I think that is the best one on the market. The hardware, the software, the support. I mean, other brands have got much better as well, but the 7 years of OS support from Samsung, the fact that Android 16 is on this, one of the first phones to come out with Android 16, I think that's fantastic. And also their AI features, even if you're not going to use them, the AI features, just generally Samsung have had the most time to optimize the software for flips and folds, and I think it's the best out there. What else have we got? Screen protector, no, $50 more expensive. Apps not optimized. So, what do we think? Would an iPhone sway you to a fold? Would a trifold tempt you more than a regular fold? Let's put money to one side for a minute. Like, would that? I think for me that would be a more significant difference than versus a regular phone to tempt me to carry something bigger in my pocket. Although, no doubt, it would be 50% thicker and probably heavier than this as well. I do like how slim and light this is. Where do we go next, I think, is the question that I'll leave to you, and let me know in the comments below. What would tempt you to buy a foldable device? Could anything tempt you to buy one? What's the biggest compromise right now that's sort of preventing you? And I'm guessing it's the price. It certainly would be for me. And also, would an iPhone fold interest you? Let's see what they do. As it stands, it just feels like we've come such a long way and there's such fantastically refined devices, but now I'm just like, now what? You know, if I'm gonna, it's like either make them just as good as regular phones or give me something wildly different, like a trifold with a bigger rectangular screen, to make it more of a substantially different product. And you know who I should have included in this video, and maybe I should get guests on these little Let's Talk with videos at some point, but Mr. Mobile, Michael Fisher, he's the OG when it comes to talking about weird form factors and different kinds of phones. We should have definitely, maybe we'll do one with him at some point. That'd be fun. Yeah, let me know. Would you like to see some guests on these videos, or just happy for me to waffle along? Let me know what you think. If you did watch this to the end, first of all, thank you so much, because that's just a lot of me talking. And hey, I appreciate your company, and hopefully I've been good company for you as well. And we'll keep doing these as long as people watch them, as long as you watch them and enjoy them. They're not gonna, they're never sponsored. They're just gonna be nice, easy. Someone called them a fireside chat, which I hate the idea of that because that sounds really corporate, but it literally is a fireside chat. Yeah, we'll have fun. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Let me know what you make of folds and flips. I'll see you next time.